Final Fantasy fans, man, you are eating good today. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe what we just saw over the last 24 hours. What's going on, guys? Tallen here with 5-9 Direct and the Waypoint podcast, joined by Chin Lethal, and we have a brand new guest. Cam, go and say hello, man. Introduce yourself to the guests.
Hello, my name's Cam Hawkins. You've maybe heard me or seen me on IGN content. I've been on Podcast Unlocked a few times. I do previews and reviews there as well, and I've been on other contents like Kinda Funny, Spawn on Me, Gamespot, so yeah, happy to be here.
Right on, man. Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining us here for the Waypoint podcast. We got a lot to talk about because even though E3 was quote unquote canceled, still a lot of stuff happened today. So, and just over this past week in general. So let's just jump straight into everything right now. We got Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary. Not a lot technically was revealed, but what we got was huge. So I got to start off with the main one because, and to me personally, we still have another year and a half until Rebirth. I want to talk about Crisis Core real quick. Crisis Core finally got a remaster / remake, whatever you want to call it. It's technically a mix of both in my personal eyes, but we're finally getting it on basically every platform, including the Switch, which I'll get into a bit because I'm a little surprised about that one, to be honest. But what are your thoughts? Anyone, jump in right now. What are your thoughts? Final Fantasy Crisis Core. Excited? Hyped? Disappointed?
I'll hop in real quick. I'm excited. This is a game that I remember like being a kid and like wanting to play so bad on my PSP. And I can't remember. I think this came out. I don't know. I can't remember the exact year, but I remember being like getting my PSP. I think it was like the PSP 2000. It was like the silver PSP, and I think they might have been doing like a special like edition of it with the Crisis Core. I swear it was Crisis Core. If not, they were doing something with it. I just remember being so excited for it, and I played this, and this was how I got into Final Fantasy VII. I never played the original. I think I was way too young. My dad bought the original for me back when I think the PS1, I don't know, before PS2 came out. I was like at the end of the PS1 life cycle. I think I was like maybe 5 or 4. But this was the game that I remember just being like all about and realizing as I got older, like, whoa, this actually tied into Final Fantasy VII and got me into it. So them announcing this was absolutely huge for me. It's great to see this finally get out of the PSP and finally get back onto a bunch of consoles, which is the shocking part to me. I was fully thinking that this was going to be another PlayStation exclusive. I thought they were going to just tie this in and bundle this into whatever hell exclusivity deal that PlayStation has, Sony has with Square. And I thought it was going to be, again, just like a PlayStation 5 thing, PlayStation 4. But they surprised me. It's going everywhere. So I think that's actually really cool. That's my take on it, at least.
Please.
It's exciting. This is a game that for the longest time we thought that it was never going to get ported because of licensing issues with, licensed music and things like that. And not only we're getting a remaster, but we're getting it is technically a remaster, but it's a lot more effort being put into it than I would have expected. The models are basically completely redone and very reminiscent of 7 remake. Obviously it's not the same scale and project budget as the 7 remake games are, but it's still again just a lot more effort than I expected Square to do, which is super exciting. And they I believe they kind of fully updated the HUD and the layouts when it comes to the combat. It's exciting because especially how remake ended, and just how Zach's role plays into Final Fantasy VII. I think that knowing the story of Crisis Core is kind of a necessity when it comes to this remake project. I think that with there was nothing really wrong with playing Final Fantasy VII Remake without playing the original, but you just got so much more reward for knowing the story going into the remake and knowing Zach and knowing how he's relevant to Cloud and the story as a whole and all those elements, so that now everyone has the opportunity to learn that story themselves and go into and either replay remake or go into Rebirth with just more knowledge on what's going on and why he's relevant and why it was a big deal about how the game ended, and all these exciting things. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I kind of agree with what you were saying earlier about it coming to Switch and it coming maybe to Xbox, because I really thought that we were going to see an announcement that Intergrade was coming to Xbox at this anniversary stream, and we didn't, but it's coming to Steam. So I'm kind of on the fence, or I'm just kind of like, what are they waiting for with it coming to Xbox? Because we know that this was a timed exclusivity, so it wasn't like a permanent thing. So of 1 year, and it's been 1 year since Intergrade came out. So at this point, it's just kind of waiting to see what when it hits Xbox.
I think one thing I was definitely expecting, just real quick before Chin starts talking, is that with the huge Xbox showcase that we just had and all of that Game Pass stuff we just saw, I was expecting to see Final Fantasy Integrated finally on there. I was just like,
yeah,
weird. Why isn't it on there? So, but anyway,
yeah.
go ahead, man.
Well,
yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I wonder if it's something with Square not wanting it on Game Pass for whatever reason. I mean, we see something like they put Guardians of the Galaxy on there. I'm not sure if Avengers is on there. Those other games that they've done. But I wonder. I wonder if they have an issue with their remake going on there, and maybe that's what's blocking it. Because Crisis Core, was that announced for Game Pass, or was it just announced for Xbox?
No, it wasn't.
And so,
no, I mean,
the other one coming to it, that might be a blockade for them. I don't know.
I don't think so. I thought originally we would see it at the Xbox Showcase, and then we didn't, and I was just like, oh well, all the games that they showed are coming to Game Pass, so it makes sense, because I didn't expect it to come to Game Pass when it got announced. Like, they have plenty of reason to not make a Game Pass deal for now, and then once it like first hits, and then eventually decide, hey, we're gonna put on Game Pass. But now that it wasn't at Xbox and the Final Fantasy VII stream, I'm like, now I'm at a point of like, what are they waiting for? I don't know if it's they're still working on it or whatever it may be, but I just wish that they would at least tell us like, hey, it's coming, or hey, it's not. Like, I don't need it to be like it's out tomorrow. It's just, is it coming?
Well, it's interesting because there shouldn't be quote unquote much for them to do to put it on Xbox, because Xbox and PlayStation are basically, mid-tier, at least when they were originally released, mid-tier PCs, right? In terms of like the architecture and everything. So I can't imagine there's some huge, programming problem they could potentially run into with bringing it over to the Xbox. So the way I personally look at it is, it's either A, they just don't want to put it on Xbox for whatever reason, or they simply forgot about it. I mean, this is Square, who literally just sold like all of their Western studios aside from like a couple, I think. So maybe they just don't care about Xbox. But then again, it's weird though that Crisis Core is then coming to Xbox, so it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't think that's the issue.
There's some deal.
There's something there. I mean, again, maybe we'll never know. It's some internal thing that are just like, whatever, move on to the next one.
Do you think it's like
because Rebirth was just on PS5. There's nothing else announced for it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I was gonna say, do you think, real quick, do you think the exclusivity deal is that Sony made with Square is for the whole trilogy and not just one of the game, like not separate games one by one? Do you think that's a possibility?
I mean,
doesn't surprise me.
Could be.
I mean, I don't remember where I saw it, but I remember seeing it from like, a legit site that, when Remake was first announced, it was a year exclusivity. And then when Intergrade was announced for PS5, they redid a deal for another year.
I heard that too.
So it's past a year since Intergrade came out. So at this point, as far as I'm aware and as far as I'm concerned, they can put it on Xbox whenever they want.
Yeah, interesting.
I looking at the new PlayStation like Premium Deluxe packages that they gave for PlayStation Plus, it makes more sense why Crisis Core isn't on that PSP list now of games, and it also, like, this is a little bit of a sidetracking, but it also gets me excited to see what other games they haven't included on those lists, because maybe they have potential remakes coming out.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
I like Metal Gear Solid's not on there. There's no Metal Gear Solids on there at all. Like that is probably the greatest game that came out on PS1 in my opinion. I know Final Fantasy 7 and stuff was out there, but I love Metal Gear Solid 1 a lot. And seeing that not on the list, and then seeing Crisis Core not on the list, but then all of a sudden, hey, here's a remake of it coming this year. Like, I don't know. It makes me really like, maybe it's just a lot of copium I'm taking in right now to hope that something great's coming out from PlayStation. But maybe that could be leading into other stuff that we could see from Sony coming out soon.
That would require the current owners of Metal Gear to actually do something good with it, though.
Okay.
I think Konami took like all of it down, or they took them off the listings or something like that. I was reading something with Konami. They took off, I think it was Metal Gear, something like that.
Oh, they delisted Metal Gear like 2 and
Is that
like
what it was? Yeah.
the collection, you know,
Yeah.
like with 2, 3,
because
and
that was on
Peace Walker.
PS Now, right? I think it was the collection.
It
Or something
was.
like that.
They-
I think, yeah, was it?
It was
Yeah.
on. It's like, yeah, it's on PlayStation and Xbox, but they said it was like a temporary thing.
Oh.
Like at first, it was just like people thought that they were going to delist it, and you know, like I impulse bought a physical copy. I was just like, okay,
Yes.
I want to get this. But then they said like, oh no, we're putting it back up for some reason. It's just like it was a really weird, you know, anomaly. So I don't think that's gonna be an issue.
I bought a physical. You know what's so weird about those physical copies is that you can buy them brand new still. Like my copy was completely sealed, and I was like, this how old is this? And they're just selling it, and they're not even expensive. It was like $30. I was like, that was. I love that. And I guess it makes sense because you only get a code for the original Metal Gear Solid, so I guess they have to still sell it new if you want the entire collection that it offers. But that was just interesting.
Makes sense, yeah.
After years, that I can get a brand new one off eBay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll eventually we will see it on Xbox, or maybe we just never will. I don't know. I have noticed Xbox's push though to get more Japanese games on their system, which is good because I know a lot of people have been asking for that and wanting that. And maybe that kind of also sort of ties into what I've actually personally seen over here, including the Tokyo Game Show last year, where Xbox had its own little thing where they're like, we want Xbox to be in Japan more, because let's be perfectly honest, Xbox One was pretty much a failure in terms of trying to bring it out here to Japan. I mean, if I go into a store here, you see like 2 shelves for Xbox, and that's it. And then everything else is PlayStation. Everything else is Nintendo. And it's just like, so when they were at the Tokyo Game Show, they're definitely like, you know, obviously pushing Game Pass, trying to do the cloud and everything like that, to maybe try and make up for that. And then we obviously saw all the Persona stuff, which we can get into later when we really dive deep into the Xbox Showcase. So we saw those games coming, and so it's just like, okay, will Square finally bite though, right? Aside from your quote unquote, because some people still consider Crisis Core a side game, even though it is in chronological order, this, you know, the same with Final Fantasy 7 and everything like that. I don't know, it's really interesting. There must be some clause or contract signed that is stopping it from happening right now. Otherwise, it would have happened already, essentially. So.
Just real quick, I'm sure you're going to segue this into the big part. I was going to say, you know, segueing that in, do you think them dropping this has plans for the future of Remake? But, you know, you could take it into the next big game that was revealed.
It could. I'm not really sure, but I mean, you literally just dropped it. So obviously, Crisis Core is amazing. Zach's my boy. Super hyped for that game. But the other one that was, I think, a shock to a lot of people. Some expected it, some didn't, just because of, you know, it's Square and everything. But we finally saw the Remake Part 2, aka Rebirth, has officially been announced, and it's coming out next winter. By the way, Crisis Core is coming out this winter, and then the following winter we get Rebirth. So
a lot sooner than expected.
A lot sooner than expected. A lot sooner.
And
Like,
16
a lot of
is
us
still
are just
coming
like,
out next year.
Yeah.
It's like
No,
every 6
I don't
months
think
is a
I don't
Final
think they'll
Fantasy game.
drop. I don't think they'll drop in the same year. I think Rebirth will drop, I think, early 2024. I think doesn't winter kind of account for like is it November and December, or just December? Right.
It can,
December
yeah.
to,
It
like,
can be
March.
very late November, December, into January, technically February, I think.
Yeah,
I'm not
something
100%
like that.
sure on that. So, and they did that on purpose, right? Obviously, like if something comes up and they have to delay it for a couple months or something like that, can be like, okay, look, it's a February release now, which, oh god, based on this current year's February, oh god. Please no more February releases. Stop it.
It sounds nice though when they put like this winter. It's like, oh hell yeah, like it makes you feel like it's coming out like this year. Like that marketing beat is so nice. But next winter, yeah,
it is. I mean, I can kind of see Crisis Core probably fulfilling that December time because, to my knowledge, I don't think Square has anything releasing in December. Or do they have a winter time frame game that's coming out this year?
No,
don't they? They just have Forspoken.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah,
yeah. But Forspoken's in
October.
Yeah,
October, right? So I would think they'd want something in the quote unquote holiday time. So Crisis Core would kind of be a perfect game to put right there. I mean, a lot of people are fans of it, and especially those who weren't able to buy PSP or play it on PSP. Now you've got a chance because you can literally play it on every platform. Which, can I say, quick side note, I scrolled through both the Japanese trailer and the English trailer to look to see if they said, Switch, cloud streaming or something like that, and they didn't. I'm a little shocked. I'm not gonna lie that thing's gonna be running on Switch. I know it's not as technically impressive as Remake 1 or anything like that, but just from the trailers alone, I'm like, how is this running on Switch? Like, what kind of sorcery are you guys pulling on something like this? And then if they can make this work and everything, I'm like, guys, what the heck was that Kingdom Hearts release then on Switch? Like, I understand 3 can't run on the Switch, but 1 and 2, you can't tell me 1 and 2 can't play on the Switch locally. Like, what's going on here?
There's this whole thing theory that I have about that. I don't want to go into a huge side track on that, but I think a big part of it is just because the games are combined as like the 1.5, 2.5, and that like the amount of data storage for it doesn't fit on a normal cartridge, and they would have to like pay a lot, and I think that Square would want to sell physical copies of those games, and because it would be so much to just manufacture them that they just decided not to do it and just decided to go the cloud route. I don't agree with it, but it's just how it is.
It is what it is.
Well,
right. Anyway,
I wonder if.
God.
Well, I just wonder
if
I mean, that's a good theory, right? Because I mean, look at what like Red Dead did on the PS4, right? You had the game disc and then the data disc, and then that downloaded most of it. I wonder if the Switch could just do something like that. But whatever, they already didn't release it that way, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but physical copies would have been nice.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so anyway, back on topic. Final Fantasy Rebirth or Remake Part 2, whatever you want to call it. Officially, it's Rebirth. Thoughts on it? Obviously I know everyone's hyped and everything, but one interesting thing I personally saw in the trailer, there's 2 things I personally saw in the trailer that caught my eye, was if you watched the Japanese trailer again, we made a full video on this on our channel, guys. Go check it out. I did a huge deep dive into the trailers and the announcements and everything. But when you listen to the Japanese trailer, when Zack is carrying Cloud, for the most part, it's the same in both the English and Japanese versions. He simply says, it's been 5, we saw each other 5 years, where are you, essentially? But he explicitly name drops Zack in the Japanese trailer, whereas in the English one, most would assume he's talking about Zack because he's literally getting carried by him, but then it goes into Aerith talking and everything, or Tifa, if I'm whichever one it was. But in the Japanese trailer, it's Zack right away. So I don't know if that could potentially mean anything, or if it's maybe the English one is trying to confuse us, and that's not an actual moment in that scene when he's talking and everything like that. Because again, it's a trailer. They always mix things up to try and confuse us and make it all hype and everything like that. So that was one thing I noticed, and then the second thing I noticed was the actual name of Rebirth is, if you put Rebirth into Japanese, Rebirth technically has 2 translations. It can mean rebirth in one way, but if you say it in another context, it can actually mean reverse. So there are some people who are looking at us and going like, okay, so this has to do with the whole time travel stuff that Nomura is just like F it and throwing a ton of this time travel stuff in there. And obviously this isn't the same timeline as we know, clearly stated in Remake Part 1. That's a lot of speculation right there, obviously. But those are 2 of the things that definitely caught my eye. I want to get your guys' opinions on that, though. What did you personally think when you saw those trailers?
Before the Final Fantasy fans interject too much, the one thing I got to say about your trailer a comment is honestly what it probably could be is you've talked a lot, like, with the whole Dragon Ball release recently, the whole movie, and like everyone talked about how the trailer showed nothing, but they do that for like Western audiences, right? But whereas Japanese audiences, you say, don't care if things are spoiled. They don't care if cool things that the Western audience might want to wait for the game to come out to see, it's probably as simple as that, where they're just like, Japanese audience will be more excited just name dropping, whereas the Western audience will want to speculate and figure it out when they get the game. So it could be just that.
It could be. It easily could just be that, and that's it, right? It's sometimes the simplest answer is the correct answer.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm stepping back. Final Fantasy fans, take it away, please.
Go ahead, Cam.
I mean, obviously, I'm excited about the game. Remake was my game of the year in 2020, and I think that it was cool seeing the Cloud and Sephiroth walking to Nibelheim, and I think the big part of this right now, or like kind of like the big discussion, is just like how different it's going to be from the original, because like that was like the big part of the end of Remake, was anything can really happen now. I still think that there are like key locations, moments, and things like that have to be in this game. Like they may not be in the same order, they may not be whatever, but like I think that they need to be present. Like I think that Aerith like needs to die. I think that is just such a, like, that is the most iconic, one of the most iconic moments in video games. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of, and also like the logo, you see that red in there, you know what that red is for. It's
Don't
for the
it.
Fucking meteor.
Don't say it. Oh, man.
And in the third game, that logo is going to be completely fucking red, and it's going to be amazing. And I think that with that in mind, like, I think this, this is, they even said it in the anniversary stream, right? Like, this is going to be like Empire Strikes Back. You know what I mean? This is going to be like this is going to be the heroes lose. Like, this is, and granted, like, you could say to a certain degree, the same thing happens in the original 7, but I think this is going to hit differently. And I think the idea of like, defying fate in the first game, and then this game being like, okay, but not everything, you can't, like, there are certain things that just cannot be changed, or that are inevitable. And I think
they're set in time, and no matter what, it's gonna happen.
Not
regardless.
even that they're set in time, but just the idea of just like, for us, like, oh yeah, they defied fate, but that doesn't mean that, like, the same things can't still happen.
Right.
So for me, I think Aerith is gonna die. I think it's just like such a important part of that story, and I like, and right now I kind of feel, I know, like, more so than others, that there is gonna be a lot of familiarity in this game, not a whole lot of, like, I think it's gonna be pretty even, right? I think there's gonna be a good amount of like new stuff, and there's gonna, because there's definitely some fat that could be trimmed from the original story, and then like some stuff that is very familiar. Like I think that Barrett in Cole, like that has to happen, and like his relationship with like Marlene's like biological dad, like that stuff needs to happen. Sorry, spoilers. Like I think that in Rocket Town, like Rocket Town is such a like canonical part of that, like that has to happen, because so Sid can join the party, and like Golden Saucer with Kate Sith, like, and Golden Saucer is just such an iconic location. Like I think that there's a lot that is going to be familiar for those that did play the original Final Fantasy VII. But my main concern is now knowing that this game is in 3 parts, which I originally thought was going to be I originally theorized that was going to be the case, right? But thinking about everything that is left to tell in this story, even if it is new and there are going to be some new things, that's not a lot of time, assuming that they're going to, like, these games are each going to be like 35 hours like Remake was, because we did 35 hours just to do Midgar, which is basically the prologue of Final Fantasy VII.
Final Fantasy VII, yeah.
And now we have all this other stuff we got to go through. And again, there's some fat that can be trimmed, but still, like, you know, that is a big, like, worry. I just hope that, like, hey, if you got to make the game longer, if you got to make the games longer to tell the story, do it. Because, like, Square Enix, especially with their Final Fantasies in recent memory, I mean, I guess 13 and 15 could be long if you played them that, like, I don't know. I just think that just based off of what Remake was, I'm kind of worried about, like, the length of time and things like that. And I know I'm going a little long on this. And I really hope as well that there's, like, no DLC when it comes to Rebirth in the same way that Remake did their DLC with Yuffie. I think by the end of the second game, the entire party needs to be together, because we still have 3 more characters to recruit. And if any of those characters are introduced after the events of Rebirth, that's just going to feel really too little too late, in my opinion. That's another thing. Those are, like, my 2, like, big things going into Rebirth. Just, like, take all the time, make the game as long as you need to tell the story, and make sure all the party members are together by the end of the second game, because at that point, like, why would you introduce new characters, because, like, you know, in that way, that are going to be in your party? So yeah.
Do you expect it? Because, like, I feel like I expect DLC again, because it felt like it was well received.
Do, yeah.
It
Integrate
depends,
was
I
well
feel like.
received.
It's gonna definitely depend.
Like,
Or-
thing with, go ahead. No, go
Oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say, or, like, I remember there was interviews when the game was coming out, and people were wondering, well, why is this a 3-part, 2-part game? And they were basically saying, like, we went into this, and it was a lot more than we anticipated. Like, we were way more ambitious with remaking this game than we thought. At least that's what I remember, like, hearing interviews. So I'm just wondering if that continues to be the case, will DLC be necessary? Like, is it gonna and like, did you not like Integrate? Did that ruin the flow to you coming out?
No, I think the Yuffie DLC made sense. It's like, okay, because in the original, she is an optional party member that you just can run into in the forest after you leave Midgar. She's not you do not have to have her in your party. So even though, like, Wu-Tai, I mean, I think Wu-Tai is actually optional in Final Fantasy VII as well, the whole Wu-Tai arc. But, like,
it is.
Even though it is, like, one of the, I really like the Wu-Tai arc a lot. But, you know, regardless, Yuffie was optional. Same thing with Vincent Valentine. But the thing is with Vincent is, like, Vincent, when you play Final Fantasy VII, Vincent is just, like, in a random room in a cave.
They need to open that up
in.
so bad.
Like,
I'm hoping that. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but they have to definitely open that up and get into, like, Dirge's Uber stuff. But I think what's weird is that they kind of, like, already done some of that stuff. That's why it's so crazy in this direction of whatever they're doing with Remake. That I don't know. Like, Chin, like, you mentioned the DLC thing. Like, I wonder if they'll do that, because I wonder if they'll do the same thing with Vincent, what they did with Yuffie. But then again, I think Kim make a great point. It's at that point where that third game should be when the party is already, like, established and your roster of characters is already there. Like, that third part should be, like, the finale part, the big, crazy, epic, like, build up. So, like, it does, now I think about it, it doesn't make sense for them to do, like, something of, like, introducing another character after Rebirth. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so, like, what I'm saying is, like, I don't mind if they do a DLC, but just don't make it a DLC about, like, Vincent, because Vincent would be the one that would make sense, because you know, him and Yuffie are the 2 optional party members, and, you know, they gave us a reason to really, like, I mean, Yuffie in 7, like, is just kind of, like, spunky and, like, sporadic, and that's kind of it, you know. But in this one, they gave her a lot more of a character, right, and a background that, like, it just, you know, it just makes her have more depth than what was in Final Fantasy VII. Same thing with Vincent, right? Like, Vincent was, like, it's just kind of like this emo dude who's cool, you know, he's cool and he has, like, a gun and stuff, but, like, that's all really he is for a lot of Final Fantasy VII, and Dirge Cerberus is kind of like his story. So, so, like, I think that they're going to try and find implements to make their characters work during this story. And I think that, again, just like introducing Vincent that late, especially in the fact that like he probably won't like actually meet Cloud and crew until the third game still. We just will get to know Vincent, which is like another thing, you know, like in Rebirth, Cloud and them still have to run into Yuffie. Like that is a part of the game that we still have to experience. It's just like, I wish we didn't have to deal with that. Like, you know, she might just be in Calm when they show up in Calm, or like, you know, and they might be a little like easy, but it's just kind of like that stuff is like, there's a lot of ground to cover, and there's just ways that they could have just not had, you know, they could have just spared some time. So yeah, so for me, I don't care if there's DLC, just don't make it a character DLC like Intergrade was. I liked Intergrade, and it made sense for what it was, but
try to avoid it kind of thing.
I don't want it to be a thing.
Yeah, I think the way I personally look at it is I think one or two things will happen. Obviously, I think Square's going to look at Intergrade and they're going to see the sales. They're going to see how well it did and everything, most likely, right? The business side of things, like all companies do and everything, right? And if Intergrade sold enough or did enough to bring back another fresh round of big sales for them, they potentially could do that, right? It's hard to say on that particular point. And then the second thing I think is that we don't know how crazy they're gonna go with these changes, right? Or what we're expecting, right? Like I think most people are expecting the quote unquote same story for the most part, with the thrown in time wizards that are flying around potentially sometimes. Sephiroth randomly shows up when originally he didn't. A character here or there does. But who knows? They could go full on crazy, balls to the walls, you know, changing stuff up, you know, make it like half the game we don't even recognize. And then if, again, going by the name Reverse, you know, are things going in a reverse order now, or are things changing? How much is Zack going to play into Rebirth now, right? Are we going to get to play as Zack, right? We just don't know. We don't. And I'm sure we'll see more trailers, obviously, because it's what, a year and a half at the least until we see this game officially out. So, you know, who's to know what's gonna happen? I mean, they could drop a trailer in, I don't know, Tokyo Game Show if they wanted to, or the winter or something like that, right? Or some kind of added on trailer with the Crisis Core game when it comes out, and we're all gonna sit here going, well, we were wrong, here's what's really happening type of thing, right? So there's just so much that could potentially happen. But I do definitely agree, though. I think that hopefully they don't do a character DLC like they did with Intergrade, but at the same time, I feel like they might, just because it's Square.
I think they have so much,
especially if it's sold, right? If Yuffie sold enough or got enough people to get into Remake again, there's a chance, right? They're just.
I was gonna say, I think there's a lot that, like, when I put it this way, I don't remember Yuffie ever interacting with Nero. That whole thing was like something that I never knew happened. So I kind of wonder, and this is why I get excited and why I start to think that them doing the whole Crisis Core reunion and trying to somewhat kind of tie it into a little bit of the remake trilogy, is that like I have a feeling like they want to do more of that, where you're going to start seeing interactions with characters that you didn't think ever interacted. And I have this firm belief that like 2 will be the game, right? That shit's gonna pop off, and it's gonna go in different directions, or we're gonna go, what the hell's going on?
What timeline is this?
And I feel like we're gonna start seeing characters, and I do feel like them doing the whole thing with again bringing in Crisis Core is, there's a lot of big characters from Crisis Core that, like, you know, people love. There's Angel, right? There's Genesis, right? Those are just the 2 big ones, right? There's Cissnei. What the hell? What happened to Cissnei? Like there's so many things that like they I just feel like the remake will do stuff like that.
Cissnei, best character from Final Fantasy Crisis Core, aside from Zack. Just saying, low key.
They teased Genesis in the beginning of the Rebirth trailer with the white feather.
Was it Genesis?
Yeah, they did. Yes,
I think I did see that. Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying. Like I that's my biggest thing with this. I think everything that you guys said is pretty much the same thing here. But my biggest thing is I do want to see them do more of those types of like crazy interactions where we're like, when did Cloud ever talk to, like, you know, like Genesis or Angel? Because Genesis, as we know, was like still kind of alive at the end of like what was it? I'm going blank. Was it Dirge of Cerberus or something like that? I don't know. One of the games, whatever. Like there were certain characters that were still alive, and I'm just kind of curious, regardless of that. But curious how they tie it in, because I do feel like they will do stuff like that. And there's also the movie, right? There's Advent Children, there's Kadaj and all these other characters. Like there's so many characters that I feel like they can have fun and be like, okay, when the split off happens and we go into this direction, you're gonna see Zack. Maybe we'll see Zack fight like Kadaj and all these Advent Children people. Maybe those will be his enemies. Like I'm so curious, because they're like those guys, they tie in right to like Sephiroth and everything. And I don't know. That's my biggest thing, is I just want to see where they take the story and how they change it. And I do think they might do, going back to the DLC thing, I can see them doing DLC for even stuff just like that, to kind of just have fun with other characters that they haven't done. But aside from that, just one more thing that I'll add on to that I want to see for this game is that I'm curious, do you guys think, and what I want to see is some type of, do you think we'll see some type of open zone? I don't know if it'll be open world, but like an open zone kind of like, do you think they'll have a way to kind of transition into each of the different locations, right? Before we get to the Golden Saucer or Mount Corel or all these other iconic locations, like do you think we'll get some type of like open world area to it?
I want it to be
so bad. So bad.
I want it to be like one big ass open world.
Like, come on, who doesn't want to ride the airship, dude? Who doesn't want to ride the
hub.
airship? Like, I'm hoping they just have fun with it, but maybe that's too much for such a big game, because let's be real, like we were saying here, this game could end maybe at the air thing. Maybe this game ends when they're up on top of like the crater and it's getting to like that timeline of the game or whatever. Like, who knows where this will end? And so there's so much like, damn, there's so much to this game. Now I'm thinking about it. Like, there was even the big mech things. I kind of forgot their names, like Diamond, Sapphire, or something like that. Emerald. I forget their names.
Oh, the Ruby weapon.
Yeah, the weapons, stuff like
yeah,
there's so much. Oh, sorry, getting off tangent here, but yeah. I would love to see that. That's probably my biggest thing to add, is I would love to see like an open world thing, because I want them to have fun with like finding stuff like that and finding the enemies like that. Because like the Shinra combat simulation thing was pretty cool. Like, and then I started thinking about stuff like how they did Weiss. Like, is Weiss just gonna be like just that combat simulation thing, or was that a tie-in for him to have more too? Like, oh man, there's so much to think about and theorize with this game, I feel like.
Yeah, well, you got a year and a half to do it.
Yeah,
so
enough time. That's also like really quick too. Is anybody else shocked? Well, I think we kind of talked about that a little bit, but
yeah,
like I still, winter leaves it up for a decent time gap, right? It could be December 2023, it could be February 2024, right? So there's a decent gap in there, and Square is no stranger to delaying games, so you know, wouldn't surprise me if they do.
I'm really surprised, because when Kingdom Hearts 4 got announced, I was just like, oh, so Kingdom Hearts 4 is coming before.
That's what I thought.
Remake Part 2.
That's what I thought.
And then, but then they did this to us, so I'm like, I mean, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to say. I mean, I think the big thing when it comes to between Kingdom Hearts 4 and this, before we move on, is just simply, what is Tokyo Game Show going to show us, right? Well, Tokyo Game Show, I don't think Tokyo Game Show is going to show us much more in terms of Final Fantasy Rebirth or anything like that. Probably show a little more Crisis Core. But if they don't show Kingdom Hearts 4, then that game, like most have predicted, is probably still a decent ways off, regardless of how they said, oh, we don't want it to take as long as 3. It's like, yeah, it's still ways off.
I think in that Nomura interview, which I'm sure we're gonna get into, I think he said like, don't expect much Kingdom Hearts 4 talk, I think, for some time, for quite a while, I think.
Yeah,
it's gonna be some time.
Yeah.
I think I get the wait for Kingdom Hearts 3 was long and stuff like that, but there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and like I think it's unfair to compare, like, and if you look back at the history of like the development of past Kingdom Hearts games, like, you know, before Kingdom Hearts 3, the longest wait was a little over 3 years for a Kingdom Hearts game, and now they got Unreal Engine down, and like I think Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to come sooner than people think. I still think it's going to be probably, you know, like holiday 2024 at the earliest, but I think that it's going to be a lot sooner than people think.
I'm still going with like 2027 just for the memes.
I waited 7 years for Red Dead 2. Okay, like it's okay if you have to wait a little bit for your games. It's okay.
Exactly. All right, moving on. So we're actually going to change up the order just a little bit here. But real quickly, we had the Xbox Showcase and everything happen over the last few days. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Lots of big announcements that happened there.
So this is something that I think goes more. It's not just Xbox, but it kind of came from Xbox as well, or like it was mentioned with a specific game at Xbox, which was Redfall. And Redfall, like, when I saw Redfall, I was just like, oh, so this is just like kind of like Left 4 Dead with vampires, right? Like this is like with powers and things like that. But then people, you know, and then when the Sonic Frontiers like stuff came out from IGN and previews came out, like the director was just like, oh, like people don't understand what this game is. And I'm just like, well, why aren't you showing us what this game is then? Like, why aren't you showing us like what you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we also heard from Arcane, like Redfall isn't just Left 4 Dead 2 or like, oh, you know, another Left 4 Dead clone. I'm like, you didn't prove that with the gameplay you showed me. Like, you know what I mean? And so for me, like, I love Arcane, like I love Dishonored, and I love what they do, but you know, you didn't show me anything that really surprised me,
right,
or got me super excited for Redfall. Like, I'm gonna play it, sure, but just after being like super excited for Back 4 Blood and seeing that game just like kind of come and go when that came out, I'm starting to get the same, like I'm starting to actually get those vibes with Redfall. Like, I think that people are gonna play it in a week and it's not gonna be talked about again. And that's unfortunate, but that's just like the reality based off of what they've shown me. And yeah, so that's how I feel about Redfall. It was impressive seeing like all the stuff that Xbox has planned for the next 12 months, which I think was really smart of them. Like, they're just like, hey, everything you're gonna see today is just the next 12 months outside of the Kojima announcement, which is a whole other thing we can talk about. And there's plenty of things I'm personally super excited for. A Plague Tale Requiem is definitely on the list for me. Like, if you haven't played a Plague Tale Innocence,
so good.
So good. Very, very good game. For like the first 80% of that game is so good. And so I'm very excited to see what Requiem has in store. I'm super happy that it's day one Game Pass, so I don't have to pay anything for it. You know, Persona, like, I'm a huge Persona fan. Having all those on consoles, like, granted, you know, we don't know about Switch yet, but even so, like, Xbox and on Game Pass, as well as you know, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, is very exciting, and that we're finally getting those games somewhere that isn't the PlayStation Vita. I love my Vita, but you know, it needed to move on. So those were like some of the things that I really got out of the Xbox showcase.
Yeah, you listed off probably the better of things, you know, like Plague Tale. I've always been interested in Plague Tale. Like, that is something I've been really meaning to pick up. That, and like at the I can't remember that. I'm gonna skip another series I was gonna talk about that I've been excited for, but one that I saw that I was just, and we talked about it before the start of the podcast, but I'm a big Bethesda fan. And
we're jumping into the fire already.
I'm gonna because I was like immensely disappointed watching Starfield. Like, I understand there's gonna be little things that they didn't show us, but like the thing that you just said, right, where a director might be able to say, you know, oh, you don't understand the game we're showing. Well, I'm like, well, I didn't get shown what I feel like people think the game is gonna be like, because what I saw was a kind of tuned up, modded version of like No Man's Sky, and you know.
Oh boy, the comments.
Dude, and I have to agree with it. I have to agree with it because I don't know. There's nothing in my brain that screams, oh, I can't wait to explore this, because I hear 1,000 planets, and in people's heads they think, oh my God, 1,000 planets. There must be so much content. In my head, I think they didn't do anything to fill those thousands of planets with thousands of hours of dialogue and story and content and exploration. I guarantee most of that's going to be procedurally generated. And the
pretty sure it is. It was confirmed already.
Yeah, and that just leaves up for enough. There's nothing at that point. I mean, it just felt like Bethesda already, in recent memory, could not fill a standalone map with enough life and dialogue and content. Look at Fallout 4. I loved Fallout 4. I played a lot, but compared to their previous, you know, titles like Oblivion and Skyrim, Morrowind, you know, Fallout 3, it felt dead. It felt like hollow. And don't even get me started on Fallout 76. That is just full blown, just drop the ball, dead, boring game. Gameplay's fun, but you don't play a Bethesda game for its gameplay. Like I'd never have. I played it for the immersion, for like the experience. And I don't know. I watched Starfield and I was like, your engine looks dated, and I know it's a new engine and it already looks dated and old, and
is it really a new engine though? I thought it was more of an updated creation engine.
I heard it was a new one for this game, but I would love someone to fact check me on that. That's what I would love someone to fact check me.
They've done like side-by-side comparisons, but like it like you said, it's not like, you know, like the worst comparison I saw was I think Starfield and like Horizon Forbidden West, and I was like, don't do that. Don't do that.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
Don't do that.
That's not fair. Horizon, that team is stupendous, and I never fault Bethesda for the look of their games. You know, I love their artistic choice. I think their games look beautiful. I think where my fault lies in is where's the RPG aspect? You know, like you know, what are my choices for character dialogue? Where's my choices for leveling up? Where's my choices for making my character, you know, like the king of space? I don't know. Like that sounds a little, you know, childish to say, but you know what I mean? Like that real in-depthness that you get from a Bethesda RPG just felt so lacking. And that's kind of killed it for me.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. Like I liked what I saw, but it wasn't what I wanted to see, if that makes sense. Like I agree with you. Like I wanted to see, give me all the RPG stuff, like give me the stats, give me like the leveling up, give me like basically whatever the equivalent of the Pip-Boy is, like show me what that looks like, because I just want to know what I'm getting into. Because like, you know, like for like the Outer Worlds, right, like I liked that, I really enjoyed my time with that game, but it wasn't as RPG heavy as I wanted it to be.
It's not.
And I know I can get that in a Bethesda RPG. So, and then that's what I wanted to see. But on the, you know, as well on the other hand, like I wanted to see combat. I was like, hey, what does combat look like in this game? What are the weapons going to be like? You know, what is the world, the aesthetic? And it seems like it's kind of like early space travel. Like it's kind of like the earlier like aspects. It's not like super futuristic for space. And with the planets, like I get the you know, upsetness of the planets being procedurally generated, or at least some of them will be, or most of them will be. But like, you know, when I think about my favorite sci-fi game, Mass Effect 2, a lot of those planets are like, they're not procedurally generated, but there's like a small, like just a small section on a planet that you'll land on, and it'll like last like 10 minutes. And I still like enjoyed doing that, like, right? Like it's not, it makes sense that there's going to be planets that you go to that aren't developed yet, and then there's going to be ones that are well developed. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. I think that there's definitely more that we need to see, and I totally understand and respect like that what you wanted to see wasn't there,
right?
Because to a certain extent it was for me, but I'm glad that we saw stuff. And when it comes to visuals, I don't expect visuals like that from Bethesda games. So it looked good to me for a Bethesda game. I was like, oh, this looks like an upgrade from Fallout 4. So
it does.
Yeah, I'm excited for Starfield. I love sci-fi. I love RPGs. So, but I definitely get where you're coming from. I just hope that, you know, we get to see more of that soon. Hopefully at the Game Awards. That seems like the next place that makes sense where we'll see something.
Yeah, they
need to fix that frame rate though, because
I wonder how early of a build that was that we saw.
I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that they are going to change my mind. I really think they are, because I think they were just trying to get something out there to kind of be like, we have a game, like trust us, like we have something here. We're not just delaying it for no reason.
But doesn't that kind of also be isn't that a little worrisome though? Not in the terms of they can't obviously improve things and everything like that, but the fact that they had a plan for this to be out in the fall November time, and thank God they delayed it. Like, could you imagine if they didn't delay this?
Cyberpunk all over again. It'd be
It would literally be Cyberpunk. I mean, you've seen the interviews and the comments and everything from either ex-developers or people that are currently there, like they're like, oh god, the term, the next cyberpunk is being thrown around. So it's just like,
I hate that.
All right, guys, use this time properly.
There's definitely things they could do to like change my mind on it, because what again, like what I love from a Bethesda game is immersion, and like what I want from this game is I want those little, because I saw they implemented the building, that makes sense, right? You're starting colonies on planets, but like, is there going to be a purpose to that besides making settlements and getting achievements? Like, am I going to be able to make, like, I'm just doing like fan theorizing of what I would love is like, how interconnected can I make my worlds, this the characters that I meet, maybe the companions that I get to have, and like, do I get to make a world in that place? And I'm not just like, how immersed am I going to be in this space odyssey that they're bringing to me? And that's just what I really hope that the next year of updates and announcements that they showcase is really being like, hey, here's how this world is alive for you to do what you want to do, rather than an empty space world, because that's what No Man's Sky falls flat on. It's dead. I love it. It's fun. I love Fallout New Man's Sky, and I think it's made it such a huge like comeback from where it started. But at the same time, it's like, I want to feel like I'm not alone in this universe, and I want to feel like there's some life to it.
If it will make you feel better, just through my experience in the industry and previewing games, stuff like that, I would assume that build is probably at least 3 months old.
Okay.
From when it was shown. So hopefully that.
So
I have no idea if that's true. I have no idea if that's true, but just through my experience, like, and like, seeing like when Avengers like showed off like gameplay for the first time, right? And then I played the same build that they showed at E3 like 4 months later. You know what I mean? Like, and it was actually like I could actually play it finally. Like, that's
Tokyo Game Show was the exact same way, because I went there in person back in 19 before all the pandemic stuff happened and everything. Yeah. And I remember seeing trailers for particular games at E3 and Gamescom. And then when I was on the floor in Tokyo Game Show, I was like, oh, I get to try this game out. Let's see like if there's anything new added or anything. It was the exact same thing that they had shown off beforehand. So, someone's having a fun time.
Yeah, the spray bottle. I knew that. Oh, to the cat all the time. Well, it's funny because like I don't think what they showed was necessarily bad. Like I like it. Like, I don't think the comparisons to No Man's Sky is a bad thing. What it worries me is that it's going to be as boring as No Man's Sky. That's what I'm scared of, because I want this game to be great. I do. Like, I got the PC to play this thing at max settings. I want this to be gorgeous and beautiful and fun. I'm going to get on a Game Pass day one, of course. And I just want it to be as good, because I think Bethesda 1 needs it, and I trust Bethesda. I do. They've made mistakes. I thought 76 is a big mistake, but I love Fallout 4, love Fallout 3, love Skyrim, all their past games. I'm excited for Elder Scrolls 6 when that comes out in 25 years. I don't know. I'm not mad or upset at them. I'm just disappointed in what I saw, and they can totally change my mind.
But that's worse though.
I know, but yeah, but
disappointed in you.
But it's,
what's crazy?
They already said they were delaying it.
What's crazy that they just recently announced, like, what's it called? Elder Scrolls 6, right, was the next big game after this that they were going to work on. And then after that, they said they had actually announced, I think, Fallout 5. And I kept thinking, like, I was like, man, when are we going to get these next games? I was like, yo, I'll probably be like 40 playing Fallout 5. Dude, that's insane to think.
Absolutely.
I don't know why he announced that so early.
Yeah.
You're not even done with. You're even.
I know. They haven't even got this one pushed out yet.
With Elder Scrolls, like, stop announcing all this stuff. Like, just focus on your game for once.
Well, I also just wonder how many teams they have, especially with Microsoft backing now too. I don't know. I mean, but
Microsoft is kind of hands off though, so I mean, we'll have to. I don't know.
We'll have to see about that.
It's like 2 teams. I think Bethesda has 2 teams.
They have 2 teams. Okay.
I think so.
Honestly,
they still act like they're some kind of small, indie company sometimes. I'm like, you guys really aren't. Like,
they're not. They were a huge publisher. They got out by an even bigger publisher. Like, that's just, they're definitely not small. I'm excited to see what maybe they could do with Obsidian if they let those teams work together again.
I mean,
dude,
when I look at everything that was announced Yeah, when I looked at everything that was announced, though, like I enjoyed things like Shovel Knight and everything, and all the and some of the other announcements that they have. I love that Persona's going to Xbox and everything like that. I think the thing that would make me turn my eyes again towards Starfield, because there are definitely, I was not the biggest fan of especially Fallout 76, but Fallout 4 was just personally okay to me. It wasn't a bad game by any means. It's just okay to me personally compared to like Skyrim and everything. But I think the thing that would make me want to really try out Starfield like the moment it comes out and everything is just kind of the touch-ups and everything. And again, I get it, it's an old build. That's a common practice to not show off your quote-unquote most current build at these kind of events and everything like that. But it still looks really rough in terms of frame rate. I mean, those animations on the faces and everything like that, that just felt really rough to me. And I don't know if that's just the limitations of the creation engine, and I get them wanting to stick with their engine and everything, but sometimes you gotta move past it, in my opinion. And I don't think they're obviously gonna do a huge engine change or anything like that before the game happens. That's unrealistic to think or anything like that. No. But I really think they need to really touch some stuff up, in my personal opinion, and especially like even the gunplay. The gunplay looks just
stale. It looks stale.
It looked amazing. What are you talking about?
It looked like Lethal. I don't know what you're talking about, man. 5 minute timeout in the corner.
Dude, he shot the jetpack. He shot the jetpack and it blew up. And it, like, come on, you weren't excited when you saw that?
Oh my gosh,
dude! He was flying. He was even flying in a jetpack and shooting at the same time, dude. This is sick.
Hey, that
God, where have we seen that before?
I want to shift it real quick.
Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
I want to shift it.
Yeah, good.
Kojima.
Good.
Kojima was at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase
event.
That we need
really
to talk
exciting.
about that. It's a cloud project. Anybody have an idea what this could possibly be? Any inkling? Or is the cloud project, is that just like a not what we're thinking? Like this isn't going to be some game connected to cloud. Is this in fact? Is this the fact that quote unquote horror game that like people were talking about, and apparently like I think there was articles talking about there was footage that people were seeing, or somebody saw footage of this so-called horror game. Do we think that could be this game? I don't know. Any takes?
I don't know. I mean, when I think cloud, I don't know. I don't have the best I have an okay experience with it. I don't have the best opinion when it comes to cloud stuff like that. So when he said this is a cloud-based thing that's being worked on, I'm just like,
well, he also talked about it being something
Xbox's
like
cloud though is really good though.
Is it?
It is.
Their xCloud.
And I've had some good experiences with it, but I'm thinking just in more, I guess, a little bit more general, because
I agree with you.
Not everyone can have that same experience with the cloud. I mean, not everyone has the internet to be able to take it to its full advantage, right? Not everyone lives in a city. Not everyone has top level gigabit, Ethernet, internet connection and everything like that, right? So when you see that this is all cloud based, or how, again, I know there's very little information. There's obviously there's probably years down the road and everything.
How big the cloud stuff is going to go into play, right? Because like with Death Stranding, right, there was like online elements to Death Stranding. It didn't like take away if you didn't have those experiences, right? Like it just like enhanced it. But like, so for me, it's like, okay, cool, you're using the cloud. Like, what does that mean? And so for me, go ahead.
I was just going to simply say, we just don't know how much of this is all cloud, right? Because like you said, when you look at Death Stranding and everything, like that had cloud elements into it. There's no denying that, obviously, and it worked out just fine. But it wasn't 100%.
And I don't think that's going to be the case with Kojima. Right? I think that was just like some. I mean, listen, I don't know what Kojima.
I think it was poor wording to use that, right? Because I think all of us here, we can assume that it's not, or at least we hope it's not going to be 100% cloud, and there's going to be some kind of like localized thing there. Hopefully, but whether it's clickbait articles or anything or videos or whatever the case is, right? Some people are going to be like, what the F? Why are we going full cloud all of a sudden now? Like your thing can't handle it. It can't be handled on the Xbox or something like that. Like, what's going on here? So
yeah, and I think I think the only reason he really mentioned the cloud is just because Xbox has gotten has been talking about the cloud more than really any other platform, and like
nonstop essentially.
You know, yeah, exactly. So it just makes sense about that kind of partnership. But yeah, for me, that was personally, as someone like I've played Kojima games, like I still haven't finished it, but I adore Death Stranding. Like from what
Dude,
all I played of it,
it's really good.
And I've played the first 2 Metal Gear Solid games, you know, and so I enjoy Kojima, but for me, like that was like, okay, show me, like, oh, I'm waiting for the game now. Like I don't this did nothing for me. It's just like, okay, cool, we're solidifying this thing that that kind of was a rumor, like heavily rumored a year ago, then kind of just went away, and now it's back, like, and it's confirmed. Cool. Like I just want to see the game now, or like give us more than what you just told us, because it didn't really do anything for me.
There's also people thinking that it's coming out within the next 12 months, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that's what. I don't think that was every game that was being shown, but
yeah, probably not on that one. So
no. Yeah, if that game was coming out in 12 months, we would have seen game.
Yeah.
Or we would have seen something. We would have gotten a title. Like, come on now.
Yeah. Plus, we know, like, Kojima, he's gonna stick to his schedule, right? He'll put his foot down and be like, no, this is either, you know, this is happening, or this is getting delayed, or this is when it, you know, that kind of stuff, right? Like he will put his foot down.
Did anybody get excited for High on Life? The game that has the Rick and Morty, I think, voice actor creator guy.
It looks good.
With the guns,
I'm
different
definitely
guns.
Excited to try it out. I want to see a little bit more, I think, personally. But I'm definitely excited for it.
Yeah, it seemed pretty exciting.
Not my thing. Like I enjoy Rick and Morty. I don't adore it, but I enjoy it, and it just didn't really like vibe with me when I saw it. So
yeah, fair enough, man. The Riot Games was pretty big. Getting all those unlocked
champions. that was
really big.
That was
I was shocked.
insane.
A lot of my friends were like that played like all those like Valorant and all those games or whatever. They got like really excited. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and also the Overwatch 2 going free to play.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
That was huge. I'm very, as someone who like at least a few years ago was super into Overwatch. Like I still love Overwatch. I just kind of like, you know, with everything that happened at Activision, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna step away from this game for a bit. I'm very curious about some things, like how the skins from like the first game that you weren't able to unlock, like you didn't end up unlocking, like how can you get those into Overwatch 2? Like do you have to go back and play the original Overwatch just to unlock those skins that you want, just so they transfer over? I don't really jive with that. So yeah, there are some things still that are up in the air for me with Overwatch 2, but in general, I'm very excited for Overwatch 2.
I think we just saw an article in the last 24 hours that said that they're not doing the loot boxes, to my knowledge, and they're doing Battle Pass / shop, if I remember correctly. But in terms of how things could potentially transfer over, if I had to take a guess, I'm gonna say stuff doesn't transfer over.
Well, I know that the skins that you have unlocked will transfer over, but it's just like, because there's no loot boxes anymore. What about the skins that you haven't unlocked?
Right.
In the original?
I don't.
Because there's so many of them.
There has either it'll be. I don't think they would do this. At least I hope. Either they're simply locked and you can't get them if you didn't have a chance to get them by then, or they're gonna be in the shop, but maybe they won't be as like not obtainable, but desirable, I guess, because the hope obviously is that their shop would have so much cosmetic stuff, essentially, at least from their business standpoint, right? You'd want so many cosmetics, so people are buying those and everything like that. I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think
boxes. About what other things?
A lot of other stuff was like nothing like too crazy. A lot of people are looking at it as like Game Pass fodder for the most part, but there was a lot of pretty cool, interesting like indie games and stuff like that kind of being shown off. Some smaller games.
Yeah. Xbox got the indie games on lock.
Oh, As Dusk Falls looks interesting. That was shown at a showcase like a year or two ago. That's finally coming out this year. And that Obsidian game,
Pentiment, I think it was.
Pentiment. Yeah. That looks really good. Apparently that's like a complete like kind of just adventure narrative game. Like there's no combat or anything like that. But it's written. I forgot the guy's name, but he's known for writing like very well with all the games that he's worked on. So that's exciting. Silk Song showing up was very unexpected.
I couldn't believe that.
I'm excited about that one.
That was such a big second game to open up with. That was the last thing I think a lot of people were expecting, including myself. I was shocked. I think everybody's expecting to see that at Direct, but that was huge.
For me, because like for me, right, like everyone expected that it would show up again at a Nintendo Direct, right? But now it's like, okay, I don't even really care when it shows up now on like Nintendo. Like, sure, I think that Nintendo will get the release date announcement
I can
for
see
it.
that.
But at that point, it doesn't matter because I know it's coming to Game Pass.
Day one.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's a day one drop too. That's big. Yeah.
Yeah, day one drop on Game Pass, and I might, when it gets a physical copy on Switch, sure, I'll buy it on Switch too. But like for my first playthrough, I'm gonna play it on Xbox because it's on Game Pass.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, we've known this about Xbox since Xbox Series X was announced and Game Pass itself, right? Like, they don't care where you play the game as long as you simply get to play it, right? So you could play Game Pass on your Xbox. I could play it on my PC. Your
Samsung.
It doesn't really
and
matter,
your Samsung
right?
TV. Don't forget that.
Yeah, you can play it on your Samsung TV wherever you want to play it, essentially, right? So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I would love to see the numbers in terms of how well it sells on Switch compared to Xbox, or maybe more better number to look at is how many people play it. Because again, with the whole point of Xbox Game Pass is you're not actually really buying the game, right? It's more of as long as you still have the subscription, you have access to the game as much as you want. So it'll be interesting to see those numbers though when the game eventually does release. I mean, we're hoping a 2022 release, but hard to say.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. But yeah, I think there was a ton of stuff announced with Xbox. Like we've obviously just gone over and everything. Definitely, I think a lot of, I'm going to say ups and downs. I would simply say a lot of ups and then some disappointments, I would say, based on first impressions, whether it was Redfall, whether it was Starfield, or any other game in between there. So it will be interesting to see what happens with Gamescom coming up. Will Xbox actually continue with the Tokyo game show and the Asian market and audience, or will we not really see anything from there? We'll have to wait and see when it comes to that kind of stuff.
One last thing I wanted to mention, if we're moving on from the Xbox stuff, is if you didn't know, there was a Xbox like showcase extended thing that happened a few days after, and they showed like
a bunch of interviews.
Yeah, a bunch of interviews and stuff. But at the end, there was like this really great and really important profile piece on the Stalker 2 team, because they're from a Ukrainian studio, and they basically showed, there's some disturbing stuff in there about like the Russian invasion in Kiev and like how they had to like basically drop everything and like shelter themselves, and how they're working in like a laundry room to like work on their game, and like some of the development team literally like are now fighting, like they literally like picked up arms and now are fighting against Russia, and like it's really important, I think, to just like because it's easily missable. Like not everyone tuned into that extended showcase. Highly recommend you give it a watch. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube about the Stalker 2 team, and hope the best for them regarding this terrible situation.
Yeah, definitely. All right, last thing that we can talk about real quick before we head off, because we've already been going on for quite a long time here, is going back now into not necessarily the Final Fantasy announcements or anything like that, but during the whole Square Enix live show and everything, we actually saw a little bit of extra information from Nomura himself when it came to Kingdom Hearts 4. And Lethal, I asked you earlier to just pull up a couple of the big answers that he had given in terms of some topics and everything real quick. What's the first one that you personally think was kind of like stood out the most, or kind of was like, what? Why are you saying that?
We'll
essentially,
go real quick. Don't worry, we'll go real quick. I have one. There's a question that was asked: did you expect characters from games like Birth by Sleep and Kingdom Hearts 358 by 2 Days to become so popular? And do you feel like their stories are complete, or can we expect more of these characters that pop up in Kingdom Hearts 4? I thought it was crazy that he said, I really didn't think the characters from these two titles would become this popular. We can stop right there. Roxas, Axo, Shion, the freaking Twilight Trio. That's crazy. That is craziness to me, as they're some of my favorite characters. And so I think that's pretty interesting that he comes kind of surprised that the focus wasn't just so much on just Sora and Riku, when I ended up loving like all those characters. But I just thought that was an interesting piece. Kim, I would love to kind of toss over to you. Does that kind of shock you to think that he might have been just a little bit kind of surprised to see so much, so much people loving, I talked about the Twilight Trio, there's the Birth by Sleep Trio, right? Ventus, Aqua, Terra. Like, that's crazy to me. I love all of them so freaking much. I don't know, I'm just curious, Cam, your thoughts real quick.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's crazy.
It's so crazy
like,
to me.
The Sea Salt Trio and the Wayfinder Trio, like, they're arguably like a more balanced trio than Sora, Riku, and Kairi, if you ask me, because, like, Kairi has continuously been done dirty throughout the series. But like, I think the thing with each of them, though, is their stories are kind of, I do feel like their stories are kind of over, right? Like, I do think that if, like, either of those trios of characters, like, come back into play, I don't really know what their purpose is going to be. While I can, like, there's still things with Sora, Riku, and Kairi that are still present and feel like that they still have stuff going on. Like, I know that, like, Kairi's like, oh, I'm gonna train with Master Aqua. I'm like, that's cool. Like, that's something to, like, get to keep them, like, relevant. But, like, yeah, I'm not entirely surprised. Like, it's like, it is surprising, but it's not at the same time. Like, if I think about what Nomura probably was mindset was, like, hell yeah, these characters are for, like, this part of the story, and then, like, that's really it. So with that mindset, I can get why he was kind of surprised. He even said he brought back, like, Roxas, Naminé, and Shion only because he thought the fans wanted it, which they did.
Yes, we did.
We did. But, like, could you imagine at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 if they didn't come back?
Kingdom Hearts 3 was such that was like the biggest build-up ever, and you just wanted to see all of these, like, connections come in and just make that big moment that they had. So it's crazy to me to think that. I did remember reading that interview where he was like, he wasn't sure if he was going to bring them back, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, there was so much left that I had questions for.
Well, I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3's script, according to him, was like, that thing was rewritten time and time again, and I understand the hype around Kingdom Hearts 3 originally was announced and everything, and it's pretty much impossible to meet everyone's expectations. But I think, unfortunately, due to whether it was complete, really rewriting it a bunch and everything, or maybe his original vision was so far gone compared to what he originally wanted and everything, it unfortunately kind of ended up dropping the ball in terms of story-wise, whether it was because of Disney's meddling with the Disney worlds, or setting up a lot of this next arc that they're doing without trying to finish the current one that you're in and everything like that. Like,
no, that is definitely part. Both of those things are true. For different reasons, for sure. I agree with that. But I do think, I do hope that moving forward, like, while I'm glad, like, he did decide to make those decisions, I hope that he doesn't, like, just listen to whatever the fan base wants and, like, just goes with what they want moving forward. Like, I hope he focuses. Do your thing.
Yeah, I kind of hope that he will focus on particular characters more and really give them what we wanted, or what he thinks is important for them and everything like that. And I honestly do agree. Like, I get there are fans for those two other trios, but at the same time, they've kind of come full circle at this point. I mean, especially the Ice Cream Trio, right? Like, they had their moments with 358 over 2, parts of Kingdom Hearts 2, and then even a little bit in Dream Drop Distance, and then in Final Fantasy in Kingdom Hearts 3. So, you know, use them, you know, if you want to, as kind of side things, or maybe to help develop Kairi a little bit more, or Riku or anything like that potentially. But I personally feel like they've been done justice, and they've gotten their spotlight essentially. I'm sure people are going to be like, no, I want the game solely focused around them or anything like that, which I don't think would ever happen or anything.
Yeah,
but
like don't expect don't expect a game starring any of those characters like moving forward.
I don't know if it's just me. You guys can let me know your thoughts on this. But I feel like aside from Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, I feel like Riku has been kind of done dirty to make more room for all these other side characters and everything. Because, like, again, I know this is due to multiple script rewrites and whatever happened over the infinite amount of days and months that were, you know, done during that time and everything. But I just feel like Riku got done so dirty, and he's supposed to be one of the three main characters. And I'm just like, what happened?
You're like, you are bringing a tear to my eye, because holy shit, the amount of times I talk to people. Riku is my favorite video game character of all time. Like Riku, I have a lot of like growing up, you know, his character spoke to me a lot, and so for me, like, you know, in Dream Drop Distance, I'm like, this should just have been a Riku game. This is
originally was supposed to. It was supposed to.
Yeah, this is Riku's story. This is Riku's, like, the finale of his redemption, and then, you know, Kingdom Hearts 3, like, yo, he is a Keyblade master. Sora is not a Keyblade master.
Dude gets thrown around like
he
nothing in the game.
Yeah, dude. He doesn't get his time to shine. And it's, man. And, like, now he's going to Quadrantum to look for Sora. I'm like, bro, like, y'all need to do him right.
This has to be it.
Y'all need to do him right. Because, like, oh, God. Yeah, I find
it extremely weird that in the, what was it, Remind, the DLC that came out with Kingdom Hearts 3, where it was like, not Aqua,
what, Terra?
Dude, Terra. Yeah. Terra's training him. I'm like, why is Terra training you? You're a Keyblade master already. Terra, like, dude got taken over by darkness for like 10 years. Like, what can he show you?
Training him? What are you training? When did he
there was a cutscene, like, because it was the year after Sora disappeared and everything like that. He's like, you've come, like Terra said, like, you've come a long way, or like there's nothing more I can teach you or something.
I don't think he was training him.
Well, he said there's nothing more I can teach you, so I'm like, wait, you're training him?
I don't think that's what he said. I'm gonna have to look back on that one.
I'm gonna look back at it now.
I think it was something. It was something like that.
No, because he went to over there to, like, I'm pretty sure he went over there to see, like, to tell him, like, oh, I think he was visiting them for some reason. I don't fucking know. And then Aqua, Terra, and Ven went probably to try and look for Sora. Like everyone else is. Yeah, I don't think he was training him. I definitely don't think he was training him. Because Terra wasn't even a Keyblade master.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
It was just Aqua. But, like, no, yeah. Riku was done dirty for, like, they got rid of the coolest Keyblade in all of Kingdom Hearts. Like, I
didn't like the generic gray key.
I still want his Keyblade tattooed on my arm. I want to get that as a tattoo. And then, yeah, they gave him the generic Keyblade. They gave him the generic, like, anime character. Like, when people say he looked like Noctis, I'm like, man, I hate that I have to agree with you on this, but he does. Like, in Kingdom Hearts 2, when he had the yellow with the blue, it looked so good. The long hair. That was another thing that made me so mad. In a like, the previous interview, like the last Nomura interview, he said that he cut Riku's hair because fans were, like, upset that his hair was long. I'm like, who? Like, it's just, like, that interview and this interview have just made me be like, Nomura, who are you getting your feedback from? What fans are saying this? Because I don't know any fans that have been saying this. Like, one of the things that we talked, that I know that Jared might bring up.
Yeah, go. You're gonna get into it. You're gonna get into it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Is the reaction commands. He said he got rid of the reaction commands in Kingdom Hearts 3 because fans didn't like it in Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm like, what fans?
I've never heard of that.
That is one of the coolest fucking. That is one
And
of
then
the
they're bringing
coolest
it back
mechanics.
in 4, right? And they're bringing it back.
Yeah,
in
they're
4,
bringing it back
so.
and forth. Thank God. But like, it was like, that is one of the coolest mechanics I've seen in an action game. What are you talking about? Like, I was so mad. And then that was just like, you need to like, I don't know if you're talking to Japanese only fans. I don't know where you're going. If you're listening, Nomura, if you're listening to this podcast, like, for the love of God, like, find different sources. Like talk to me, buddy. I'll tell you all the things that you need to know. Cause like no one I know has ever said any of that. But yeah, reaction commands are coming back, thank God, because that was definitely an issue in Kingdom Hearts 3. And they brought it back in Remind, and it was cool as shit.
Dude, the whole final like finale segment was like some of the best, just the best use sometimes of like the reaction command. I absolutely loved that moment, with all of them together.
I should say ahead of time, like, I don't know if like we're allowed to swear on this. I'm so sorry if I've been like swearing like a horse or a sailor and like, yeah, and then they brought, and that was one of the things that was cool what they did with Riku, where like it was him and Terra, and the reaction command was titled Successor. That was cool. Like that was the payoff I was waiting for, because you know Terra is the one who like bequeaths the Keyblade to Riku. So calling it Successor, I was like, oh my gosh, what a great moment. Like Kingdom Hearts 3, you know, 8.5 out of 10 game in my opinion.
Ooh,
but
I give it like a 7 or a 6. Like,
no, it's not.
I think base game without Remind, maybe like a 7 for me. But if you want to add Remind to it,
it's not that bad, y'all. Come
Dude,
on.
Arendelle, come on.
Remind,
Arendelle, come on.
Arendale's not even the worst world. Arendelle's not even the worst world. Arendale's not even the worst world.
Which one's worse?
What's worse? I don't know. Dude, that was a pretty bad
what's worse than
world.
Arendelle?
That was
for me, Corona.
I didn't like that one either, but I hate it. I hated
like
Arendelle so much more.
Corona, what was that
Tangled.
world?
The Tangled world, yeah.
Oh, that one, that was okay in my personal
No,
opinion.
like here's the thing.
Sorry, the thing with
least,
Arendelle, the stupid Olaf little thing,
dude,
like,
I couldn't take it.
I'm sorry.
That
was like such a small percentage of that level though.
Here's the thing. Going up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain,
I get it.
down the mountain.
Up and down the mountain. Yeah, I get that. But like at least the ice labyrinth, like at least I'm doing something that's interesting or different, because like Corona, it's like you're literally okay, sure, you take Rapunzel to Corona, and then you're just like, what, like the events of the movie are happening and you're not there, and then it's the final boss time, and then fucking Flynn
Arendale's the same for the most part.
And then, no, it's not the same. And then Flynn is like dying, you know, whatever. And then Sora, Donald, and Goofy are on the fucking what you call it? And I'm like, what is going on here?
They do the Frozen song though, and you randomly have Sora and Donald and Goofy just in the back.
I thought that was funny. I at least thought that was funny. I'm like, but I don't know. I'm not saying that Arendelle's perfect. But I'm saying that, like,
your opinion here, Chen. What are your thoughts, man? Do you think
did Chen play Kingdom Hearts 3?
Bro, I did not play that much of the game. I haven't played.
You had no idea what was going on.
You guys, dude, I'm enjoying the discourse so much right now, because I get in debates like that with games that I don't like either. By all means, keep at it. I got no opinion to throw into this, I swear.
All right, Lethal. What's the last comment then from the interview that you think?
I was gonna do the reaction, but I mean, just to close it off, I just thought it was pretty interesting. The other one was the whole Smash Brothers. There was a big question about that, about how like the whole thing was Sora getting into Smash, and like the reaction. How do you feel about it? And I thought one of the craziest things was he had mentioned that, people were all like going against Disney, saying like, oh, like Disney's not going to allow them to do it. It's Disney's fault, blah, 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 blah. But he like shined this biggest light ever by saying that like Disney was all like, it's a great opportunity, go for it. And he was the one that was being picky about it. And I was like, mind blown. I remember losing it.
Bro,
my friends were all like, did you read that? And I was like, wait, what? Because and they just never said nothing, and like people just hated Disney for that whole decision for the duration of Smash Ultimate while it was getting the characters announced.
Everyone
crazy.
Everyone was like me. Everyone was like, oh, if it doesn't happen, it's because Nintendo and Disney cannot make a deal.
Yeah.
But no, it's fucking Nomura.
Yeah, it was just
Nomura the whole time.
I couldn't believe it.
It was just Nomura. I'm like, I'm like,
What
bro,
what was his reasoning
also,
again?
it was
It
terrible.
was
like,
lore.
I'm
Something to do
scared
with
what's
the
gonna
lore.
happen.
I'm like,
It was just how he
lore.
connects the
Lore. I'm
lore,
like-
how he wants to connect it. I'm like, really?
The lore
like,
doesn't
there ain't
matter
no-
like, that's
with
the
any
reason?
other character.
Yeah.
The
like-
lore doesn't matter with any of the characters.
I'm like,
Why-
bro,
what do you mean the
nobody's
lore?
story who isn't a part of this game already, their canon don't matter.
Somebody
to Smash
explain
Bros.
Metal Gear. Someone explain how Metal Gear ties in to Smash Brothers for Snake, because like there's
Yeah,
no
exactly.
way. There's no way.
How is Final Fantasy? How is Street Fighter? How is all this stuff tied? Like what?
Smash
you know
Brothers.
what's
fighting game.
Actually,
You throw
I
it on a
will.
platform,
I
you
wanna
fight
talk
it out.
about-
I'll tell you how Smash Bros fits into Metal Gear Solid. It's the Lale Lule Lo. All right, this is a simulation battle for Snake. That's all it is. It's just a simulation. It fits in completely.
Here's
Maybe
something
Nomura was
that
onto
I love
something.
here's something that I love to like argue towards Metal Gear Solid fans, and they get furious at me about it. Like,
Oh,
I
God.
have friends. I have friends who well, first I'm gonna say what is the way that like the narrative is told in Kingdom Hearts is very similar to Metal Gear Solid.
Oh,
It is
completely.
very similar, and I've talked to people who played both series in completion, both series, like, and they agree with me. But there are some people on the internet that if you tell them that are like big like Metal Gear Solid fans, if you tell them like, yeah, it's just like this story's just like Kingdom Hearts, or like the way that the story's told is like Kingdom Hearts, and it's like the most offensive thing you've ever told them.
I feel like I know why you're saying it and what you're saying. Can you explain what you mean, how it's told the same way? I feel like I will completely agree, because I think I know what you're saying, but I haven't played enough of Kingdom Hearts to like grasp that.
It's like the first game takes place, and then like, oh, there's like the sequels kind of take place, and then you get like a new story with like, or like you get a prequel, and it's like, and the story is like it's not like it's confusing, but
It's confusing.
It is kind of
It
like
is so confused. Yes. Okay.
It's just as
I
bad
thought that's
as
what you
Kingdom
meant.
Hearts. It really is.
It
like
is.
the
It
long-
is.
well, like the longer it gets, the more you have to like put in effort to understand what's going on, because it's like, and the way that it's just like presented to you, it's just very similar to Kingdom Hearts, and I don't want to call specific people out, but because I've literally had someone, I'm not gonna say who it is, I've literally had someone DM me and be like, don't talk to me about this again. Do not mention it to me again. Like,
God, that's too funny.
Because I bring it up and they're just like, just stop.
No, but
and I'm just like, I'm not even trying to I'm not trying to like rile you up. I'm just saying like, yo, I've played Metal Gear Solid. It is like Kingdom Hearts. Like,
you're also not even saying it's bad. You're just saying it's confusing, which it is. And
but the people that get mad about it are the people that think Kingdom Hearts is bad, or
What?
how
They think
it's
this-
convoluted,
Well, see, now that
or
makes
how
sense.
it's like,
Yeah,
blah,
now
blah,
that
blah,
makes
blah,
sense.
and it's just
Yeah,
like,
that makes sense.
no, dog. It's like it's both can be good. It's just there are similarities here, like to its narrative.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like considering like this was like I would say like not even considering 5, because like 5 there's like a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but like if you go 1 to 4, like it's just
it is.
And
very
that's not even
similar,
including like the
very
side games,
similar.
right? There's like Peace Walker, there's like Portable Ops. Like,
I
there's a
would
lot
consider
too.
Peace Walker.
Yeah.
Peace Walker is basically
Yeah.
4 before 4.
There's a lot.
Yeah, dude.
So
it's insane, and good luck if you skip a cutscene by accident. You skip one cutscene in any of those games, dude.
You have to pay attention. You have to pay attention when you play those games.
I had to. I actually remember I was playing Metal Gear Solid 1, and I pressed pause on because I was playing on PS3, so you can like pause it, but I didn't realize I didn't actually pause it when I was going to pick up my DoorDash from downstairs, and I came back and I was in the middle of a boss fight, and I was like, what happened? I had to close the game, and I was like, I need to go to YouTube, watch a playthrough, and see what did I just miss in the last 10 minutes? And I was like, if I didn't rewatch that, I would have no idea what was going on.
I remember like in Metal Gear Solid 2, I want to say, when you find out that Otacon, right? That's his name?
Yeah.
You find out that he had like a relationship with his mom or something like that. and I was just like, just out of nowhere, just out of fucking nowhere.
Yep.
Like, this is some Kingdom Hearts shit. And I was like, what?
It's
What?
out of
Like,
nowhere, bro.
It was like one of the first games I
that-
streamed when I streamed on Twitch, and I was like literally like losing my mind on stream. Like, what is it? This is so random.
You know what I think it is? Maybe it's just the Japanese developer mindset or something like that, right? That they feel like they got to throw the curveball at you every like.
But that's another thing that I want. That's another thing I want to say. Like, I'm not gonna like dispute that like Metal Gear Solid for its time was like, because I played it for the first time like a few years ago, and I was like, I get it. I get why people like
love it.
Say Kojima is like one of the best. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But like Nomura does not get his flowers. Nomura does not get the respect he deserves as a creative.
It's because people see it as a kid Disney game because it's Disney. It's because
it's
completely because the Disney Worlds. That's it. If it wasn't,
it's so frustrating.
And that sucks because it is like I've played Kingdom Hearts 1, 2.
He directed Final Fantasy 7 remake.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's all the time. That's all the time traveling.
Oh god!
Did he direct? Has he directed other games outside of Kingdom Hearts? He like
Versus 13 technically was his, but
yeah,
that whole thing happened.
But but he also like did the character art for the cast of Final Fantasy 7. Like, Cloud looks the way he does because Nomura made him. Like, Nomura made those characters, and it's just like
doesn't get.
It's so frustrating to me. Like, he just doesn't, just not even as a director, just as a creator, he just does not get the respect that he deserves. And I think he should be in the same discussion as Kojima.
I almost wonder though if it may be a combination of the side games from Kingdom Hearts that have maybe made people's opinions go down a little bit. Because while Nomura probably gave them bullet points to hit or something like that, maybe that is a particular reason.
But a lot of people say those things without having actually playing them.
I know. People will say that and everything, right? But that is potentially one reason.
Yeah.
And then on top of how split Kingdom Hearts 3 was, especially from a story perspective, maybe that was enough to just and then also throwing in things like Union Cross and everything and the mobile games and all that stuff.
That's not
also I'll say too, I think a big difference of them is how digestible both genres are, right? Because like you're looking at a long term, like a long form action RPG versus a very linear, straightforward like
but their
stealth
narratives
tactic.
Are like
they're I know
and
I completely agree with you. And that's not my point's not the narrative. My point is the audience that can digest it and get to actually understand it, or not understand it because they're both confusing, but you know what I mean, who actually get access to the entirety of it. It's easier to digest Metal Gear Solid because you're just like, I'm going in sneaking, killing people, I'm done with the game. Whereas Kingdom Hearts, you're like, okay, I'm going in for a long action RPG, I gotta think about what I'm doing, and some people get turned off by that kind of game. It just is what it is.
No, because for me, I'm not gonna like make claims without like backing it up. Like, because like when I played Metal Gear Solid, I was like, this is a lot like Kingdom Hearts. And I hit up my local friend who's a big Kingdom Hearts fan and a big Metal Gear Solid fan. I was just like, hey, is this a thing? And he's like, oh yeah, like definitely a thing. And it's like, okay, cool. So now I make that statement, but I can some Metal Gear Solid fans who don't really fuck with Kingdom Hearts. Some like Kingdom Hearts, but aren't like on the same level with Metal Gear, and they're just like, they're offended. They're like, this is like as if it's the biggest insult that they've ever heard in their entire life.
They probably haven't really either delved into Kingdom Hearts too much. The last time he played it was middle school. Back,
most people stopped after like 1 or 2 or something like that.
Here's another thing. Here's another thing about Metal Gear Solid and Kingdom Hearts that are very similar. Like, you will not get the
full story.
Not even the full story. You will not get the compellingness of either of those franchises' narratives if you just watch a recap video. You have to play the games. You have to watch them scene by scene. So like I'll have, again, like, not gonna name names, but the person that like messaged me privately is like, I've watched the recap videos on Kingdom Hearts 2. I know what the story is. I'm like, no, you don't. You did not digest, like, you did not approach this story the way that it was intended. And there's a lot of stuff that you just don't understand. Even if you watch a recap video, you just don't get the depth.
You don't get the depth because it's confusing if you play it. It's confusing enough just being able to like completely see every bit of dialogue yourself, it's hard to digest the entire story. Like, you're not getting all the nuances and stuff from a recap video. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
No way in hell.
Nuance was the word I was looking for. Nuance was the word I was looking for. Yeah, and again, like, and I'm not gonna say for Metal Gear Solid because I haven't played through all of it, but I still stand by it. Like, if you play all the Kingdom Hearts games in order, in release order, you will understand the story. It's not like you're gonna be super freaking confused when you get into Kingdom Hearts 3. You're gonna know exactly what the stakes are. You're gonna know everything. Like, I don't think, like, I think Kingdom Hearts just gets a bad rap because back in like 2006 you started Kingdom Hearts 2 as Roxas, and people were like, oh, this game's stupid because you're playing as a different character. I don't know what's going on. And everyone's like, oh, Kingdom Hearts is a franchise where you don't know what things are going on. I'm like, no, that's never been the case.
That's actually hilarious because Metal Gear Solid 2 had the exact same problem where you started playing as Raiden, and the exact same thing.
Well, no, it was the opposite. It was opposite. You started playing as the main character, and then you switched to a new character.
And people were like, ugh, who's this guy? This isn't Snake. This game's dumb and confusing and blah, blah. And you're just like, it's the same thing. Dude, I got you 100%. I'm right. I totally got you.
I appreciate you backing me.
I'm just gonna say this before we wrap everything up here because we've been going for
I'm
quite
sorry
a long
we
time
went
with this podcast.
huge tangent.
No,
it's fine, bro.
It was much needed.
Okay, fine. For my little quote unquote tangent, then real quick, I'm just gonna say this because I saw it in both his Kingdom Hearts 3 interviews and even here and everything. I believe I saw a snippet of it. Finish up the the Final Fantasy character story. Like, I know he says like, oh, I don't really need him in there and anything. The whole point of the Kingdom Hearts was Disney and Final Fantasy. I understand not bringing in other Final Fantasy characters. There's a reason we didn't see the Final Fantasy X characters after we left Destiny Islands. I get that. I really do. But we went so far into some of the stories with, I mean, realistically, it's mostly 7 characters and plus Leo, right? For the most part, right? Let's finish that, right? Let's see what happened with Cloud and Sephiroth, even if it's just simply, you know, a quick flashback or something like that. It wouldn't maybe feel as great, but at least do that, or have them, you know, really, you know, finish out the whole, not Hollow Bastion, but Radiant Garden stuff now, right now, because that was originally their home, right? Let that tie into, you know, finding Sora in the other world or something like that, or it was something, I don't know, but you know, you say you don't need them in there, or they didn't really serve a purpose. You're the creative director. Find a reason to finish up their stories or something like that. Don't just leave it half-ended. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, but
I don't know. I feel like outside of like the Sephiroth and Cloud stuff, I think the stories for those characters are done. I just don't like the idea of them of him saying that like, oh, like they were never supposed to be like a big thing in Kingdom Hearts. It was just like they were there so that there were more characters before.
But he made them big, especially in 2, though. Right?
No, I agree with you, but the thing is, like, but the fact of the matter is, like, those characters mean something to us now in this universe. Like, bring them back, do something, because like it's just
like his trios, right?
It was upsetting. I was just like, where are the Final Fantasy characters? Like, I'm not expecting a huge role of these characters, but like, I want to see them. I want Sora to interact with them. Like, I want those things. And because because
in like if it stayed the way it was in 1, where you simply saw them in Traverse Town for a little bit and then that was it, we didn't really see those particular characters in after 1, and then in 2 there were some other random Final Fantasy characters to kind of stick with the whole, hey, you know, little hits in there, that some Final Fantasy characters in there and everything. I think it wouldn't have hit as hard in 3 and been like, okay, you know what, there aren't as many this time around, fine, you know, he throws a couple in here and there, that's it. But the fact that 2, you know, I don't think there's much debating on this, 2 had a lot of interactions with those same characters that we saw in 1 a little bit. I mean, everything we go back to Radiant Garden like 2 or 3 times. We talk with the cast about what's going on there. They're dealing with Ansem's lab and everything like that. And it's just like, okay, we've gotten time to do it. They fight the 1,000 Heartless with you and everything, right?
Oh yeah, like the team up that you do right before
that blows 3 out of the water. I don't care what anyone says. That blows 3s out of the water. I don't. That was.
Oh yeah. Oh, for
way
sure.
better.
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely. But because that's the thing that's like also like kind of upsetting about the 3 one. Like the 1 and 2 was like meant to be kind of like a technical like flex, like, oh,
Right.
look at all these heartless on the screen at once. Like in 3, it's just like, okay, you're just doing it again for just cause, like that. We don't want that, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise anymore. It's not like compelling anymore because you've done that. Do something different.
Yeah, I don't. I hope he actually will consider doing some of the Final Fantasy characters. Again, I'm not saying to add in every single Final Fantasy character from every single game or one from every game or anything like that. It's just like there are a couple of story threads that'd be nice to finish off. / you know, if we do go back to Radiant Garden for whatever reason, you know, let them just have a small little story thing to explain what they've done during 3 or something like that, or, you know, just again actually wrap it up, unlike how 3 was trying to focus so much on this next arc without actually trying to finish stuff. I don't. That's just my
See,
personal.
for something that for me, like, I kind of hypothesized when going into Kingdom Hearts 3, which I still kind of wish was real but didn't happen, was like, I wish that in Kingdom Hearts 3 one of the worlds was Midgar, and we went to Midgar and we helped Cloud take down Sephiroth, because, you know, we were just like,
cool.
oh, where's
That would've been
Cloud,
cool.
like, you know what
We
I mean?
still have to get that.
And, like,
that has to
found
be a
it.
thing. Like, it's just so
Like,
weird.
Yeah, because
That's just such a
so
big
weird that they
cliffhanger.
just-
You can't just do that. Like, there's no like that.
Yeah,
like that's one of the
exactly.
reasons
If
why
they're
like they
going to-
definitely have to continue. I think.
If they're gonna do like the Star Wars world as everyone's theorizing, especially because it's now these worlds are supposed to be the more realistic ones and everything like that, or
Yeah.
our quote unquote real world or anything like that. Perfect time to do that with Midgar, right? You know, just explain that, hey, when Cloud and Sephiroth disappeared in that light, you know, we're now on Midgard and we play out part of Final Fantasy VII or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, heck, and maybe Cloud's the only one who recognizes us, and all, you know, and then we see that world's version of Tifa and all that stuff, right? And they don't recognize you, but, you know, whatever they do.
I think it'll
right?
still be the same versions of them, or like, you know, I could see like Tifa being there, and like Barrett, because like Barrett, we haven't seen Barrett at all, right? So like
Yeah.
and it's just like kind of like help with the beginning of Midgar, that like,
Yeah,
or like just like
remake part 1's final boss, you know?
Yeah, or like
part
its
of
own-
remake part 1
yeah.
into the final boss and be done with it, you know? Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and at the and at the end, he's just like, oh, I gotta go, and like Sephiroth is still out there, and Sora's like, all right, well, we gotta dip, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Call us if you need it type of thing. Then he moves on to the next world like he does with everything else, you know? Something
Yeah,
like that,
exactly.
you know?
See, Nomura, come on, hire us. You know?
We're not even writers or game developers or anything like that. It's like we literally just came up with that on the spot, and I'm like, I'm sure
Fans
there
who
are
care.
people who are-
And guess what?
And that
Fans who
sounds
care.
hype.
And he'll-
Yeah, that sounds
Exactly.
hype.
And he'll do exactly the
And-
opposite
and
of what you guys are saying. So just be ready for that now.
Yeah.
Oh God, I know. All right. Well, I think we've talked long enough here. This podcast has gone definitely a little longer than I thought it was, but hey, we got it. We had some awesome discussions and everything. Got to talk about a lot of stuff, and it's always fun to talk about games and everything like that. So, Cam, I want to personally thank you again for joining us here. It was an honor to have you, and hopefully we'll get to see you in some future podcasts and everything. So, always feel free to reach out to us, and we'll definitely bring you back on. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I had a great time.
all right. I think with that being said, everyone, though, that is going to be it for this episode of the Waypoint Podcast. I, again, with Tallen with 59 Direct, joined by Lethal, Chin, and our guest Cam here. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Johnny.